It's important for our immune system to know what to attack and what to leave alone. So this means that it's important for our white blood cells, which are basically your immune system, to know when to mount an attack because there is something that's making you sick, like a virus or bacteria, and when to leave your cells alone, as well as knowing when a cell is like a cancer cell or a tumor cell so that it can attack it. And this is the job of something called major histocompatibility complex, or I'm just going to call it MHC, but it's called major histocompatibility complex. So MHC is a group of proteins that's found on the surface of cells, and it acts like this biological display. So these proteins hold up pieces of other proteins. We call those pieces antigens, and when it holds them up, it helps immune cells like T cells, which are a type of white blood cell, inspect them to know, is it your cell or is it a foreigner? And we need to turn on the immune system. So these little pieces, these antigens, can come from inside your cell or from something that the cell picked up in its environment. Either way, MHC helps our immune system decide, is this normal or is this a threat? And this is so important. So where does MHC come from? MHC proteins are encoded by a set of genes that are unique to each person. So it's kind of like a unique immune fingerprint. So this genetic variability is why organ transplants can be rejected. So if your body sees someone else's MHC, it might treat it like a threat. So MHC doesn't just help fight infection, it also helps define self cells from non-self cells. And when you have issues with this can lead to various autoimmune disorders. So in MHC, there's two classes of MHC. There's class 1, which we sometimes call MHC1, and class 2, which is also called MHC2. And these two work a little bit in different ways. So starting with MHC class 1, these display what's inside the cell. So MHC1 are found on the surface of almost every cell in our body. Basically every cell in your body except red blood cells. So we say they're found on every cell that has a nucleus. And red blood cells don't have a nucleus, so MHC is basically found everywhere. On your immune cells, on your white blood cells, on your skin cells, on your liver cells, all of these, but not on red blood cells, because red blood cells don't have a nucleus, so they don't express MHC1. So MHC1 displays fragments, pieces of proteins that the cell is currently making. So these are constantly being scanned by your white blood cells, by cytotoxic T cells. This is a type of white blood cell. So if a cell starts producing abnormal proteins, like from being infected by a virus or from a mutation, cancer is basically mutation, MHC1 will display those fragments, and then the T cells will destroy the infected or abnormal cell. So if you want to think about MHC1, imagine if every cell is a house and MHC is a sign in the window that says, here's what I'm doing inside. If a virus breaks in, the message changes and a T cell shows up to say, we've got a problem. So that is MHC1. Again, it's present on all cells, just not red blood cells. That's the best way to memorize it. And it is also present on white blood cells. Next, there's MHC2. MHC2 is found only on special immune cells called antigen-presenting cells. They're a type of white blood cell. So these are macrophages, dendritic cells, and B cells. And keep in mind, these cells have MHC2, but they also have MHC1. So keep that in mind that they have both of them. But they're the only ones that also have MHC2. MHC2 is used when these cells eat up bacteria or viruses or other foreign material and break it down. Then they display pieces of it on MHC2 to show other immune cells, especially something called helper T cells, which are also called CD4 plus T cells. So once a helper T cell sees the antigen, sees the little piece on MHC2, it becomes activated and it turns on an immune response, which is good because then you call in more immune cells, you can activate B cells, you can turn on inflammation, like guide inflammation. So if you want to think about MHC1 and MHC2, if MHC1 is like a house that shows what's happening inside of a cell, so that's MHC1. MHC2 is kind of like a scout that's returning from the field, holding up a part of an enemy and saying, we need to do something about this. So why is MHC important? It's important for infection detection. Without MHC, T cells would have no way of knowing when a cell is infected or when an immune response is needed. It's also important for immune training. So during development, our T cells are training to recognize our own MHC presenting our own proteins. If they respond too strongly to normal self MHC, they're basically eliminated, and this helps prevent autoimmune disorders. There's also vaccines. So when you get a vaccine, antigen presenting cells display pieces of the vaccine, the antigens on MHC2, which can activate your immune system. So hopefully in a perfect world, you end up producing antibodies so that if you ever are exposed to the disease, you have protection. There's also transplant compatibility. So everyone's MHC genes are different. And if you receive an organ from someone whose MHC is very different from your own, your immune system probably will see it as foreign and a threat and attack it. So this is why when doctors are doing transplants, it's very important to do something called MHC matching. This is also important for autoimmune diseases. So if MHC presents our own proteins in a way that activates T cells, or if T cells aren't trained correctly, this can result in autoimmune conditions like type 1 diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. So MHC is very important. And again, there's MHC1 and MHC2. And it's how our immune system knows what's going on and what to do about it. MHC class 1 is basically found on all cells, all nucleated cells. It shows what's being made inside the cell, and it's important to recognize self. It's recognized by cytotoxic cells, cytotoxic T cells, which are called CD8 plus T cells. And MHC1 says this cell is infected, kill it. MHC2 is found only on immune cells, antigen presenting immune cells. So macrophages, dendritic cells, and B cells, and it shows pieces of the pathogen from the outside, and it's recognized by helper T cells, which are called CD4 plus cells, and it basically presents them so that the immune system can do something about it. So that's MHC.